Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today I am creating this super pretty cherry blossom frame card using brand new stamps and dies from the Hero Arts March 2024 release. We're going to start with this background die. This is called the Cherry Blossom Cover Plate. I'm die cutting it from a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of smooth white cardstock. This is going to leave me with a beautiful frame that perfectly fits the front of an A2 sized card, which is what I'm looking for here. Other ideas would be to use this over a flat shaker card, or you could probably even make a dimensional shaker card by putting some thin foam strips around the edge and having a shaker background. Now what I love is that we're going to create something that has dimension but is a fairly flat card design. And we're also going to be doing one of my favorite techniques, which is custom coloring a white die cut with alcohol ink markers. I am using Olo markers today, and the markers I'm using are listed down in the description below the video here on YouTube and over on my blog. I have a link for Olo, so if you're interested in checking out Olo markers, definitely head over there and pick up the markers you want. One of the great things about Olos is that you can mix and match them. You can get them kind of a traditional way is what I would call it, or maybe what you're used to, what you're traditionally used to, with the chisel and brush tip, or you can get brush, or you can get two different coordinating or complementary brush color or colors of markers and put them end to end brush with the connector rings. So they are just really amazing. I have quite a few videos here on my channel where I'm using these. I've been pretty much exclusively using these for about 1.5 years, and I highly recommend them. I used 2 colors to do all of the branches on my cherry blossoms. Now, once I have that, I went in with a darker red color and then a very light red color to blend these out. You'll notice that my coloring is not super detailed, I suppose I want to say, and I'm really working to blend out that darker color. The lighter color is going to have more of the blending kind of solution in it, if you will, pretty much like you're used to. So it's going to really bleed out that darker color, but it's giving the most perfect look. Yes, I do want to add some greenery to this, but I'm going to add very minimal greenery, and you're going to see that just near the end. I'll go in with some green shades of markers. Total, I only used 6 markers for this entire cover plate. Very minimal. Now I will incorporate a few more Olo markers for the coloring of the crane that I'll add in just a minute. The other product we're using today is the Crane Wishes Stamp and Die Bundle, but you could really use this with anything. You could add all kinds of amazing embellishments to, or different images, I should say, to this card. I just love how beautiful and springy it is. I kind of am a sucker for anything cherry blossom, and this is an absolutely stunning cover plate. You'll notice as I work that I am working on a glass mat with an alcohol ink swab, or just a little alcohol ink cleaner. It is going to be very easy to clean up anything that gets on my work surface, so I prefer using a glass mat underneath what I'm doing. And as I'm working around, you may see that I pick up some of my brown shades or pink shades or red shades. I'm noticing maybe places I've missed. This is a lot of coloring. I did try to work in smaller areas and build out to the entire frame, but invariably there might be places that I missed. So it's always kind of a good check to go back through and see, do I need to fill in anything? Have I missed anything? Do I need to blend out more? And kind of catch all those little things. Now I noticed a couple of small pieces didn't pop out of the frame. It does die cut very detailed. I think it's absolutely stunning, but I'm just going to pop those out with something sharp. And then we're going to work on building our background. So for the background of this, I always think a beautiful light aqua, like Pool Party Reactive ink, creates a perfect backdrop to accentuate the beauty of the cherry blossoms. It's very light and it's not going to take away from the design at all. On another 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel of smooth white cardstock, I'm ink blending this color into my panel. You'll notice I'm going all the way around. I'm not going all the way to the edges. That is very much on purpose. We do have a very thin, I want to say probably 1/8 inch frame all the way around. And it is going to frame up our scene beautifully, but I like how it kind of fades into the darker color in the center. Now, if you've been here for a while, you know how much I love a good text background stamp. One of my very favorites is the novel PROSE from Hero Arts, and this is not a new release product. It's been out for quite some time, but it continues to be one of my go-tos, and it kind of gives that newsprint or book type text. So I'm going to ink that up again with our Pool Party Reactive ink, just a tone on tone. That means it's not going to be super dark. It's really just going to give some nice texture and not add too much to the background where it really draws your eye away from the rest of the design. Once we have that tone on tone, I am going to kind of lay out my Crane Wishes images, and looking at it, I decided to add a little more distress to the background while I stamp and color these images. That way it can be drying while I'm working. I'm just picking up some white gouache that was left in my splatter box. I reactivated it with a tiny bit of water, and I'm going to splatter my background. It's going to be very, very subtle, but I love it. I think it's going to work really nice. So again, I'll set that aside to dry while I stamp my images, or my image and sentiment. I'm using the thank you and the crane image from the Crane Wishes bundle, stamping these with intensified black ink on smooth white cardstock, and then I will color these in with Olo markers, die cut with the coordinating dies. I love that there are coordinating dies for the sentiments, you guys, and then we will pop these onto our card. I'm using a very subtle color scheme here, all grays, browns, and just a tiny bit of red. So these are the same two reds I used for the cherry blossom. I find I usually try to, for the most part, keep my color palette pretty simple. There are always those cards that I would probably call the extra cards that are a little extra and use a lot of colors, but I don't think this needs it. The cherry blossoms are the focal point for me. We have our crane here that kind of helps pull the entire scene together, but I still want the focus on the cherry blossoms, if that makes sense. Now, something I love about Olos is they have red gray markers. You might be used to cool grays and warm grays. I love those, but I pulled out some red grays for this card. And you'll notice I'm coloring in, or kind of feathering in on the wings, several areas that have the red gray, and I'm going to blend it out with a lighter shade. So I like to go in with my dark color and then blend out with the light color. I probably do that 80 to 90% of the time. And then I'm going to go in with some very light neutral shades. They're O shades, which means they're in the orange color family, but they're on the brown end of the spectrum. So they're neutrals that I like to use for critter coloring. And that's going to be the blending shade that I use for my crane, as well as the 0 marker. And that's going to be like a colorless blender with the blending solution. It is not a blender. They don't call it a blender for Olo. It's called a 0, and it just has that blending solution in it. And what I find that it does is it kind of softens the edges. I don't want any harsh edges where I am shading out my colors in the main part of the body where I'm using my neutral colors. So these O colors that I'm using, I think I use 7.3 and 7.1. Well, for that, you'll notice, even though these are very light, I picked light neutral shades, there's going to be a couple of harsher lines, and I just want it to kind of blend out into white. And I find a 0 marker is so fantastic for that. It's a great basic. You're not going to use it every time you color, but it's fantastic to have on hand for those times where you need to just soften something a little bit, or even push ink back within or inside of a stamped line. I've done that before, but mostly I use it to soften edges. And here is that 0. And you'll notice I'm just kind of going over any of the edge where the brown shade blends into the white areas. I'm not really going over the entire colored area, just blending it out. You want to be careful not to oversaturate too much and have the color bleed outside the line, but that looks fantastic. I'm using my wire snips to cut out my sentiment and my crane. We're going to run these through the die cut machine and then put our entire card together just like that. Super fast, super easy, and it creates the most beautiful, stunning result. So we're going to start by gluing our cherry blossom frame to our background. The gouache is dry. It does dry very fast. And of course we have that beautiful pool party, the novel prose text print over the background, and then the white gouache splatter. And I think that that tiny touch of color really sets off the color of the cherry blossoms perfectly. I'm using the glue press, gives a nice fine line of glue, and I'm not going to glue down all of the branches as you might have noticed there, because I want to tuck my crane to be standing on that thick branch along the bottom. I'm also taking a black gel pen and adding detail to the eye. And then we're going to add a little glue to the back of him. And I want some of the branches to be over the top. Obviously, I don't want one over his face, but kind of down there near his legs, that one little branch, I like how it kind of overlaps his body a little bit, just makes the scene look a little more natural. Then I'm placing some foam adhesive on the back of the thank you, kind of piecing together a square and a strip. And we're going to pop up that thank you. I can hardly let a card go by without a little foam adhesive somewhere. So we're going to pop this on the back, place this right down here in the lower right corner. And then looking at my card, I wanted some sort of a dimensional embellishment. I decided to use some Hero Hues enamel dots in the blue shade. Kind of had some orangey reds and blues, but I think I like the blues. I think they'll blend into the background, but add just a nice little dimensional touch. These enamel dots are beautiful, amazing. The sizes are so good. I'm using the medium and the small, and we're going to scatter these all over the background, filling in some of that quote-unquote white space. Once I have these all in place, we will glue this entire card panel to a white top fold card base, and our card will be finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this beautiful cherry blossom frame card using Hero Art's March 2024 release products. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, And don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new paper crafting video or I go live. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.